Good morning. I'd like to call this November meeting of the Pinelands Commission to order. We have a reading of the public meeting statement.
Adequate notice of this meeting of the Pinelands Commission was given in compliance with the requirements of the open public meeting act by providing notice to all municipal and county clerks in the Pinelands area and to the Secretary of State on December 14, 2014. And to the Commission's officially designated newspapers on December 18, 2014, and by posting a copy of the full report.
Thank you very much. Call the roll, please.
Sure. Good morning.
Good morning.
Commissioner Ashman? Here. Commissioner Avery?
Here.
Commissioner Barr?
Here.
Commissioner Brown?
Here.
Commissioner DeMello?
Here.
Commissioner Erlin?
Here.
Commissioner Galetta?
Here.
Commissioner Janron? Here. Commissioner Lloyd? Commissioner McGlinchey?
Here.
Commissioner Prickett?
Here.
Commissioner Quinn?
Here.
Commissioner Rowan Green? Commissioner Witt? Chairman O'Rourke.
Here. Could we all please rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. My colleagues will receive copies of the minutes of our open and closed sessions. I hear a motion for their adoption. We have a motion, we have a second. Mr. Chandler, any discussion of minutes? All in favor of their adoption, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? One abstention. Okay, Commissioner Quinn. And the minutes are approved. All right, before we carry on with the regular agenda, I'd like to take a moment to recognize one of our employees here at the Commission who has put in 10 years of dedicated service. That person is Ron Duper. You can stand, please. Okay, Ron, we want to recognize you. You began your employment in October of 2005 with us, 10 years and a month. Maintenance custodian for the Commission. Your duties encompass the entire Pinelands Commission complex, including the buildings, the grounds, as well as the vehicles. That's pretty comprehensive. That's a lot to keep going. Prior to your service here at the Commission, Ron served in the U.S. Army with tours in Germany and in Greece. And now he likes to spend his free time with his family and with their cats. He also enjoys the outdoors and camping. Ron, we're very glad you enjoy being here and you do such a terrific job at maintaining things here at the complex. So if you would like to forward, present you a certificate to recognize your 10 years.
And Chairman, while Ron's walking up, I just want you to know that if Ron didn't show up for work, I don't know what we would do.
Ron, thank you very much.
It's a nice been working here. Hope I continue.
We appreciate that.
Thanks. Thank you.
Okay, and now we get down to our committee reports. There was no personnel and budget committee meeting last month, but there was a meeting of the MOA review committee.
The committee met, and so at the moment, and we've approved all the minutes for all of our meetings, and most of the discussion is contained in those minutes. So at the moment, what we're doing is compiling all of the suggestions and recommendations, and we reviewed a bunch of those at the meeting. I've asked all the committee members to circulate any further ideas they have, and then we will be putting together a recommendation for the P&I committee. And at the moment, I can't tell you exactly when that will take place. Thank you.
Any comments or questions for the Commissioner? All right, let's see, now we'll move on. The audit committee meets infrequently, at least once or twice a year. We had a meeting last month. We received a draft copy of the auditor's report, the state auditors for our calendar year. And the contents of the report are confidential, so I really can't report on those now. Staff is currently working up a reply to them, and the report will be presented to the Personnel and Budget Committee when they meet next week. The final report should be published for the public to see in December, early in December. Okay. I don't know if any commissioners have any questions or comments, anything they wanted to add to that? Commissioner?
Just one thing, I apologize, I couldn't make the meeting, and I did follow up with Mark, and I asked Mark to try to get a meeting together with Jim Smith, and myself, and Nancy Wittenberg, to go over a couple of issues,
Yes.
and Jim said it sounded good to him.
Yes.
So I just wanted us, Jim, the commissioners and Jim,
Yeah.
and Nancy.
Yeah, and he hasn't scheduled that yet, but that will be coming up shortly,
So,
I'm sure.
would you follow up with that, Mark? I don't know if you're the appropriate person, or Jim is the appropriate person.
Jim chairs that committee, but I'll be glad to remind him.
I appreciate that.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. All right, next, I'll report to you about the Policy and Implementation Committee. We met on October 30th, and we approved our minutes as well from the previous meeting. We had the very happy duty of approving $750,000, the amount of money that is remaining in the Pinelands Conservation Fund for acquisition of 5 properties. I can tell you generally, while those projects are still in, pursuing acquisition, we can't be very specific about them, but 2 of them are in Ocean County's forest area. One is in the Toms River corridor. One is in Bear Swamp on Route 206. And there's another in Estelle Manor that happens to be a Section 502 target area property, which was one of the priority areas that had been outlined by the commission. I'm very happy to see that included in the list. By February 29th of next year, all projects must have completed their appraisals, obtained certification of fair market value, and have a signed contract with their landowners, and have executed grant agreement for purchase. If we can go through all 5 of these purchases, we will have preserved another 2,600 acres in sensitive areas. So it's money well spent. So we'll see whether or not we'll be able to report back to you in February as to how far along those are going. Hopefully, those will have closed by then. But in any event, that was the sole action in our committee. Any comments or questions on that?
Mark, were we able to accommodate all of the applications that were submitted, or were
No, we had, I think 13, I might be off on that, but certainly more than these 5. And of the applications that were received, these were the ones that scored the highest, and that the staff recommended were most deserving of the investment, and the committee agreed with that. I mean, there was a real separation in terms of the environmental value score of these properties versus the other applicants. All right. If there are no other questions, I'll turn it over to the Executive Director for staff reports.
Okay, at the last commission meeting, and I think also at the PMI committee meeting, we discussed DEP's Wharton Motorized Access Plan. I've had conversations with the Department of Environmental Protection on it, and we are scheduled to meet with them next month. Also, you may recall, we went over some of the CMP language regarding the Commission's authority over public lands and motorized vehicle use. And there's language in the CMP about pre-existing uses in 1980, and we are trying very hard to find whatever we may have that designated such roads. So hopefully we'll get more there, but it's been a big research project. So we are engaging with DEP, as the Commission had asked that we do. We're investigating what we have with regards to the CMP language. If you would like the Department of Environmental Protection to come here to review on the plan, they are willing to do that as well. So that would be, if that's something you want.
I think they're interested in that.
I think that would be,
Sounds like the commission would love to have that happen. So,
Okay.
thank you.
And that, they're in a stakeholder process, so nothing's happening, so there's time for discussion. So I will set that up.
Is that a public meeting?
This one.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Two plan review items and then three towns that are working on affordable housing plans. The two plan review items, we continue to meet with stakeholders on the PDC enhancement program. We met with the builders last week. Given that they don't like the mandatory PDC aspect of the enhancement, the meeting went pretty well. We worked out a lot on flexibility to ensure that we get the density that they're permitted to in the zone. And I think they appreciated that, so we're gonna start meeting some of the other stakeholders, to show them where we are, and then we're gonna come back to P&I, basically, through P&I. This is where we are, maybe we'll get there. Secondly, Kirkwood Cohansey, we continue to talk to people about that. We talked to the Delaware River Basin Commission, their Water Management Committee, and showed them some of the ideas that we're pursuing, and they were interested in it. They hadn't heard of some of them before, which surprised me a little bit, like the low flow passive marketing technique. We were there with Jeff Hoffman from JDP and other people, so it was an interesting discussion. We also talked to the builders about our potential approach. Their concern with the Kirk Cohansey is that they, at some point, may need more water, and how they're going to get it. And so we're a little concerned with that because as we look at the watersheds, many of them are already stressed, if you like. They seem to, so the question is how many are left, and is there enough water, and where will we get water in other places? So it's an interesting discussion, and we'll be back again on that. We're continuing to get interest from municipalities on affordable housing. We've had at least 3 this last week: Waterford, Medford, and Jackson. They're all called up talking about potential different ways of dealing with their obligations, which means probably more density and things like that. We were interested to hear from Jackson because, as you know, we've had some issues trying to get their zoning clarified, and the affordable housing issue may help. So that may lead to a possible solution in Jackson, and both Waterford and Medford are going to deal with the same issues. That's all I have.
Okay. Any comments or questions? Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners, members of the public. A few items just to update you on. Tuckahoe Turf, Hamilton, Winslow, Woodford Township. Just an update on the permitting status of that. We have issued a letter calling up the approval that was issued by Hamilton and also by Woodford Township. As you may recall, on the Hamilton side of the equation, Hamilton was to issue both a site plan approval by the board and also a subsequent zoning permit to permit the actual schedule of events for the calendar year. We did receive the zoning permit over the last month, and we issued a letter indicating that that raises an issue with our standards based on the number of events, excuse me, not the number of events, but the total amount of soccer that's going to be occurring on the parcel. So there's a hearing scheduled for mid-December on that. And piggyback onto that hearing, also we called up the Woodford Township Planning Board approval for Tuckahoe Turf because the Woodford Township approval did not contain conditions that we thought were necessary to limit the number of events that were occurring on the parcel. And the last item on that is on November 6th, we met with council and their attorney for Tuckahoe Turf and also the representatives of Tuckahoe Turf to explain the issues to them. They are contemplating the issues. We suspect they may be submitting additional information for us to consider as part of that call-up process. But as of the moment, there's a hearing scheduled for mid-December on that matter. Next item, just a reminder that the Stafford Township Stormwater Basin compelling public need, public hearing occurring in early December of this year. That'll be at the Stafford Township Municipal Building. It's not, the public notices have not been done for that hearing yet. It's the responsibility of Stafford Township to do those notices, but I do anticipate that that's going to happen and occur in early December of this year. Ultimately, that application will be before the commission for a decision. We were contacted recently by Mullica Township. Some of the commissioners may be familiar with Sweetwater Casino. The Sweetwater Casino was a longtime restaurant in Monmouth Township. I guess at this point it was 10 years ago. It was destroyed by a fire. We've had several interested applicants in reconstructing Sweetwater Casino. They've never come to fruition, those plans. The township, the mayor has contacted us again. They have an interested party to redevelop the restaurant. We'll be meeting with them.
That's good news.
Yes. Okay. It would be nice if this one could come to fruition. It's been a long time. The last one just wanted to note is we continue to review the New Jersey natural gas application. We believe that the application continues to be incomplete. We anticipate issuing a letter requesting additional information either today or on Monday. The applicant is aware that we will be issuing what we refer to internally as an incomplete letter requesting additional information. That's all I have.
Any comments? Go ahead, Commissioner Ashton.
I had a couple of questions, Chuck. One is, well, for Larry, the meeting with the builders about the PhD program, is that exclusively staff or are the commissioners allowed to come?
Well, the meeting's over, but
I know it's over, but maybe you'll have another.
well, we're gonna move on to the other stakeholders, and they're basically, we have groups of stakeholders, we invite them in and go over the issues, like we're gonna do municipalities, we're gonna invite all the
Can we
towns.
come to those meetings?
I don't see why not, yeah.
So will you let us know,
Sure.
please? Thank you. And the public hearing for the staffer
Yes.
compelling public need. Who's going to make the decision about what is a compelling public need?
Ultimately, the commissioners will make that decision.
But our only way of doing that would be to say no or yes, right?
I think, practically speaking, yes.
Okay. The last question I had was about the Walmart in Hamilton. You had two conditions. I just wondered if those have been remedied or not.
Sure. Well, the two conditions that the commissioner is referring to concern an existing stormwater management basin that's on the parcel that we don't believe is functioning, and also the issue of public sanitary sewer in Hamilton.
Yeah.
So that application will be moving through the Hamilton Planning Board. We believe that if and when Hamilton approves the application as part of the municipal approval, there will be conditions in that approval that address implementation of a remediation plan for the stormwater management basin. The commission staff and the municipal staff required a remediation plan be submitted to complete the application. We issued our certificate of filing, and when the municipal approval is issued, it would have to contain conditions that implement the remediation plan for the stormwater management basin. Was that clear, Commissioner? Then,
Yeah, because there were those two
I'm
conditions.
getting to the second one, and there are conditions that have to be met to provide public sanitary sewer to the proposed Walmart addition. At the moment, Hamilton is in compliance with its long-term wastewater management plan. The conditions that had to be met to allow for connection of new uses into that facility. So at the moment, it's consistent. The wastewater management plan provides a schedule with a timetable where things are supposed to have to occur by, and those things have occurred. And we anticipate that when Hamilton issues its municipal resolution, that resolution will contain findings as to how the proposed Walmart is consistent with that plan.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any others?
Larry, does the staff consider Jackson Township at this point to be a certified or an uncertified municipality, or don't we know?
I think technically speaking, it's certified, it is certainly not meeting the terms of that certification.
So there's a zoning ordinance and a master plan that the commission has certified, and any amendments thereto that have not been certified are not in effect.
Our eyes, they are not, and Jackson eyes, they are.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
No, I just, we continue on the process to the request for proposals for the construction of the interpretive center. It's going to keep reminding me, because one day they're going to show up here and the place is going to be torn apart, you're going to go, what happened? So we got the vision, we're meeting, the committee's meeting, it's a lot of work, but it is proceeding, and now it's sort of on a path, and unless something very bad happens, hopefully, I don't know, Paul, what would you guess? First quarter of next year?
As far as when it begins, correct.
Yeah.
That's what
So that's exciting.
forward to. Yeah. Okay, if there's nothing else, I guess we can move on to the agenda. Staff has recommended that we approve an application from Tabernacle Township for interested in building 264-foot high communications towers for their emergency management service building. And I hear a motion for the adoption of the resolution. You had a first and a second. Is there any discussion on the resolution? Okay, all in favor of the adoption of the resolution, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? Okay, that resolution carries. All right, next, we'll move into public comment on agenda items that are pending public development applications. There are 4 such projects. One is the DEP's Division of Fish and Wildlife in Winslow Township, the construction of a storage building. Another is Evesham Township, wants to build a dog park. Upper Township is seeking to construct a salt barn vehicle wash building that will be in addition to an existing garage. And the New Jersey Turnpike Authority wants to demolish a multi-use building and a salt barn. Both structures are 50 years old or older, and those are the pending applications. Anyone from the public have any comment about any of those items?
I have a question, what was the thing about the Upper Township?
Upper Township, construction of a salt barn, vehicle wash building, which would be an addition to an existing garage.
Is that?
I'm sorry, and an addition to an existing garage. You spread that. So there's 3 things. Salt barn, vehicle wash building, and an addition to an existing garage.
Is that in Tuckahoe?
It's, well, I don't know. It's somewhere in Upper Township.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it
Thank you, Commissioner.
Well, I was curious to know, I had heard that they're in violation already, with the buildings that they have constructed there. Is that correct?
Director's nodding her head yes.
Mr. Chairman, in response to the question, this is an application to cure the violations that were discovered on the Upper Township municipal complex parcel, and the staff of Marlborough Township filed this application. This is the application. It's here today for public comment on that application, and it's for action at the next commission meeting.
Did you have anything you wanted to say about that application?
It's all news to me at this point. I mean, kind of next meeting to speak about it, or?
No. This meeting.
If they're already in violation, I guess I would just ask that you take into consideration that they've been violating, and
I take it these structures are constructed.
That is correct.
They're built date basis.
can you put some kind of conditions, or?
I'm sure staff will be looking at that. That was the purpose of having them file this corrective application. So,
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, could you state your name and where you live for the record, please?
Natalie Nice, Upper Petersburg, Upper Township.
Thank you.
thank you very much. All right, yes.
Just with respect to the policy of curing violations after the fact, I think the commission needs to amend the CMP to provide some form of teeth to prevent this from occurring. such that there be compensation or mitigation for the harm and some form of punitive accountability for the violation. And if you don't have field enforcement authority, you ought to do it as a commission and put conditions or something in place to keep the towns in line. Think about it.
We've certainly debated that.
We-
One at a time, I'm
We
sorry.
did draft the rule language to charge an increased fee for that, and those rules didn't make it through the process, but we're gonna try again.
Yeah, yes, I mean, it's certainly something the commissioners are very interested in, Mr. Wolf, and, you know, you're right, I mean, without having enforcement authority, you know, they were going to, Ms. Nice, if you could wait just a minute, there was a gentleman from Mr. Dimitrov. Yeah.
Yes, I'd like to.
Could you identify yourself?
Mark Dimitrov, Richland.
Excuse me, I need to hear
That was-
them, so they need to come in.
Oh, yeah, go to the microphone, please, and you got to just.
Mark Dimitrov, Richland. I like where this is going because, as you know, I come from Richland,
Yes.
where there's been multiple violations, and then you actually have to go and approve plans where water goes uphill, goes through solid objects, and we have lots of problems. I'll speak to it a little bit later.
Yeah.
But we need to do it where you don't allow the politicians to go forward and then ask for forgiveness when really there is no proper cure.
Yeah, yeah, and we agree, I mean, it's unfortunate the original CMP did not give us that kind of authority, we did try to bring that, so we'll try again. Right, yes, Mr. Tillage.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just a reminder, this is a comment on the application itself.
Oh, that's true,
Regulations.
yeah, we have to, any comments here should be focused on, not on our policy with regard to enforcement, but on these 4 applications, so with that caveat in mind.
Jeff Fiddle, New Jersey Sierra Club. I guess I'm trying to figure this all out because you've had a series of violations in this area and you're trying to deal with them. But at the same time, you also have an application going right through the same area called the South Jersey Gas Pipeline. You also have a compressor station that's going to be pretty much adjacent to some of these illegally built structures. And I don't know how you can move forward with the South Jersey Gas Pipeline as long as this whole issue with Upper Township is unresolved, especially since we still don't know if they're going to have jurisdiction on the pipeline or not, because that hasn't been determined by BPO. And so I think this raises a whole, series of other questions that need to be answered as part of this because of how this is interrelated with another project.
Okay, and it's direct on the point, but
It's a deficiency in the application. Well, these points are relevant because they're deficiencies in the application that's pending before you.
okay, they're on the
Just to
record.
connect the dots.
We heard it, we heard it. All right, is there anyone else? All right, see, no one. I'm sorry, that's right, you did one. Go ahead, it's nice.
Natalie Neese, Petersburg, Upper Township. Was it the South Jersey gas line that brought out these violations in Tuckahoe? Or, would they have continued to get away with this? What brought it up all of a sudden?
Well, the answer to the first part of the question is, when we were reviewing the South Jersey gas application, we discovered the violations on the Upper Township parcel. The Upper Township parcel is the proposed site for the interconnect station. So that's when we discovered these violations. The second part of your question is, I can't answer when it would have been discovered. We typically rely on municipalities to determine whether violations have occurred. In this case, of course, it was on public property and the municipality was involved. I believe the mayor has indicated that they were not aware that they needed the commission's approval for this particular development. And we require the municipality to file an application to try to justify and seek approval for what occurred with that application to the commission. Did I answer your question?
Well, you're talking about Mayor Palumbo in Upper Township? You said the mayor?
The mayor, correct.
And he was not aware of the violations? I think that's what I heard.
Yes, that's what was in the, I read probably the same newspaper articles that you read.
Okay. Again, I think that this is most unfortunate that this pipeline, this interconnect station is just being railroaded through. Opposed to it, and whatever you can do about these current violations or whatever, I appreciate your support.
Thank you. If there's no one else, we'll close the public comment about agenda items. And there were 2 ordinances that were circulated to the commissioners. They do not require any action in the class today, but if any commissioner has a comment or question he wanted to raise about them, one is Hamilton Township ordinance and the other is Stafford Township. Move on. To open up to public comment, we have a list, and this is general public comment now. We have a list of commenters, 16 people who signed up for comments, so we certainly appreciate, guidelines are in the agenda. We appreciate if you find your speech to, your questions to a 3-minute period. Okay, so we'll begin with Anthony Morrow.
Here.
Could you step up to the microphone, sir, and identify yourself? And give us your comment.
I'm sorry. I'm just actually a student observer here.
Oh.
Yeah, that's just, I had no comment actually.
Oh, okay.
I was just signing in.
Okay. No problem.
That's all.
It's a learning experience, teaching.
All right. Next, Mark DeVitro.
Thank you very much. I would like to just,
Sure, just
pass out
some material here. Yeah, Jessica.
Mark Wheatroff, I live in Richland. I'm going to start with just a quick referral to a wonderful program that was done here back in 2011. There was an attorney by the name of Seaman who had actually written a lot of the CMP language and so on, and he gave a speech and he said, we have to be Raphaels and not Rasputins. And it's to that I'm going to speak, because I'm trying to be a Raphael. I have a new paper in permafrost and periglacial processes. This is the 10th paper I've written on the Pinelands, and I really like to spend all my time doing research and to celebrate this place. But I'm stuck with the problems of inheritance from these violations that occurred back in Richland Village. As you can see in the paperwork that I just gave you now, that this is taken last night, the railroad company is on my property again. From the construction that you approved, redevelopment in the Pinelands Forest area, on a gerrymandered survey that I gave to you that shows that a 60-foot wide right-of-way has now become 130-foot wide. And your staff and your attorney cannot fathom that a 60-foot right-of-way should not be 130-foot wide. And I guess what behooves me is that railroad is being used for the pipeline. It's the railroad line that goes down to specifically only for the English Creek plant, or English power plant, and so BL England. So here it is that my property is being used again and again because you approve violations, and then when I go look for cure, I go to ask to go to the Office of Administrative Law. And I'm being told that I can't go to the Office of Administrative Law even though the redevelopment took place on my property. I've been harmed, I've been attacked physically, mentally, have nails in my driveway, things like that. And the person that told me that I couldn't go was Ms. Roth, who was called your senior counselor. And then I went to look up, wait, isn't this the domain of the Deputy Attorney General? He's being paid $65,000, $75,000 a year to sit here as your counsel. And when I look back at Ms. Roth's history, I found out that she was actually hired as a specialist that was not even advertised. And then he morphed her into a legal advisor and then into the senior counselor. And in her job description, she's not allowed to do this. She can't be the counselor. She's only there to advise the Deputy Attorney General. And so I'm really confused of how 3 times she could deny me access to administrative law for law that goes back all the way to King John and Magna Carta.
Can I suggest that this may be going astray beyond your real public comment and into something that might be the area of litigation?
I would only share with you that this matter and all legal matters are run through the Attorney General's office as we were required to do.
Yeah.
Can she, does she have the authority, it's not in her job description as such, it's not in her authority to allow me by state law and under Governor's Statement number 6, how could she, how does she have the
First off,
authority?
she's our counsel. The second off, this is in the hands of the Attorney General's office. So I don't understand.
I don't understand how she is the one that denies me access to Office of Administrative Law when
This is
really,
in the hands of the Attorney General's office.
that's not who I got the letter from.
But our counsel gets guided by the Attorney General's office.
Well, guided, yes, no, actually, she is the guide in the Attorney General's office. You're a senior counsel according to the state law.
Mr.
Yeah,
Moriarty
law.
can respond to this, but
The issue is, as Mr. Dimitrov submitted a hearing request on an application, we, Stacy, and the Attorney General's office made a decision that he was not entitled to stand as a third party. That is very clear legal standing. The letter was issued by the commission from Stacy that is completely appropriate, so I don't really think there's a problem there. I mean, there's really no question about that. It was done properly as far as we're concerned.
Okay.
Okay, well, there's,
That
I,
answer from the Attorney General's office. I don't think this is something that we, the commissioners, can debate with you, Mr. Dimitrov. This is.
okay, well, that's fine. I'll do it through the legal, I'm doing it through the legal man.
I'm sorry.
And as I had, to get back to the Highbridge Group, which was a company, I now learned that there was 5 staffers who were actually working for the Highbridge Group while they were staffers here. They were working for a company that does consulting, and that company actually worked for a municipality that they regulate. And as you can see by the office, there's actually a Open Public Records Act document that I got, that one of your staffers was destroying documents, was working when he wasn't supposed to, has violated multiple things. And he's the guy that went and did the sewer service area, acting as he's an attorney, ensures this, you've got to be on sewer service area, and so on. This is very frustrating. I'd rather be doing science and geography and the fun stuff, but as long as the commission is going to go and approve designs that are bizarre, and there's no due process, and like I said, you are on my property. And in Ms. Roth's job description, she says she has to be able to read surveys. That survey, anybody could see that that survey is fake. So this is why we have to have some teeth, as Bill Wolf has said, in the process. Because what happens is then the politicians give you designs that I can show are impossible. They defy the laws of physics. They go through, there's water going through solid objects. They take an old septic system and call it a stormwater basin. They show houses being flooded and show water going through, and then there's no recourse for these people. So, and yes, I argue that, yes, I was denied access to the Office of Administrative Law. This is now over with the Attorney General's office in this question, and I actually have cited things. So I guess that, but I just want to see, I want you guys to do good things. You can do good things. Don't be pushed by politicians.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff Tittle, Director, New Jersey Sierra Club. I just wanted to give you some updates since the last meeting, because I think one of the things this commission really needs to grapple with is that the world is changing. In the last 2 weeks alone, the Keystone Pipeline was canceled. Governor Cuomo yesterday canceled the LNG port off our coast. BOEM earlier this week leased 34,000 acres of land off our coast for 3,400 megawatts of offshore wind, almost 10 times the current capacity of BL England. We've seen yesterday Aspen went carbon-free, British Columbia just went carbon-free, and we're on the road to Paris. But that road to Paris needs to go through the Pinelands. The Pinelands Commission needs to grapple with climate change and with greenhouse gases. And not only is it in your mandate under your act, but it's also in the state's Global Warming Response Act. And I think it's become a critical point in this country, in this state, to move forward. We are seeing significant climate impacts already in the Pinelands, from southern pine beetle to new invasive species coming in. We see manatees off our coast. We're also the warmest place in the world that still grows cranberries. So climate will, besides Superstorm Sandy and flooding and all those other things, and deroches and all these things we've never heard of before, we need to grapple with it. And part of grappling with it is also shifting away from fossil fuels, developing more policies to encourage renewable energy and energy efficiency in the Pinelands, restoration of forests and tidal and marshes. And that brings me to where we are dealing with these pipelines. The amount of gas that would come out of both the South Jersey gas pipeline and North Jersey gas pipeline, if burnt off, would double the carbon output in the Pinelands region, and would have a significant impact not only on climate change, but on the environment and air pollution. Cutting those pipelines through the Pinelands would also cause thermal impacts, localized environmental impacts, and change the ecology. It also makes zero sense in a region that has subject to forest fires and put pipelines through. You're talking about putting blow torches in the middle of a national reserve. But the point that I wanted to get at for the commission, there is something wrong when massive infrastructure projects do not get the transparency and the public scrutiny that they need. There's something wrong when something like the South Jersey gas pipeline, which can have such major consequences to the Pinelands, will not have a public hearing. And I hope I can get a copy of the letter to New Jersey Natural Gas on the deficiency, because that project is deficient in hundreds of different ways. And that's really what it comes down to. It comes down to we need to move the commission forward, we need to move the state forward in grappling with dirty fuels and moving towards a cleaner energy economy. But we also have to do it and deal with what's in front of us in a way that's open and transparent. There's something that's just illogical to me, where the Pinelands Commission was set up to do regional planning and to oversee development. And yet, we're now at the BPU, where the BPU may exempt local towns from any oversight. Meanwhile, the Pinelands Commission has given up its oversight, pretty much, or at least any public oversight. And it just doesn't seem to make any sense. And so, the two things I want to leave you with, the things I've said before, is that one, you need to move forward on regulations on climate change, and two, you need to put a moratorium in place on a temporary basis to come to grips with this massive infrastructure coming in. And there'll be more pipelines, and there'll be more things coming forward. But if you can just declare something a private development when it's a public utility, when you can say it's for use in the pines, when it goes outside the pines, when it's for a power plant that's supposed to close and that goes into a grid, then you can do anything. And I think it's really about, the integrity of the process. You have a town that's in violation of your own plan, and yet you're going to go forward with putting critical infrastructure in an area where there's violations all over the place. That can't go forward. There's just one thing after another, and I just implore you that on the road to Paris, don't destroy the Pinelands. Thank you.
Questions, I think, with regard to the deficiency letter that public posted on our website. Can we do that?
No, the staff does not typically post our letters for completing application, they're public information and they're available to the public. I just want to clarify, we have not issued that letter.
Right, so we're clear with that.
Sure, all of those letters are public information.
Okay, well, I misspoke, it won't be on the website, it's available. With regard to the global warming issue, a few of the commissioners have been talking about it. We do, Commissioner Lloyd is saying he would like to have a discussion of it at a P&I committee meeting. So, we'll put something together and send a request to staff, maybe for the December meeting, so we can in that discussion. And then with regard to policy or the role of the commissioners with regard to major development projects such as subject to there's going to be a discussion in closed session today to consider the issues that arise, the role that the commission has. In response to the letters by Director Paul Montgomery. Can we stick with the heartbreak? Anyhow. All right, next, Mr. Phillipsack.
Hello, Bob Phillipsack, retired chemist from the FAA Tech Center, Linwood, New Jersey resident. I did meet with staff over the issue of basins, and I did receive a thing from Mr. Liggett, and it would seem that we've entered into the theater of the absurd. It's like Alice in Wonderland. Words mean exactly what I say, they mean nothing more and nothing less. Basins are necessary to minimize downstream flooding and excessive runoff into waters. Basins are not necessary. They stop the recharge of water. The only place that you're going to see lots of water is, in fact, at the basin of exit 41. It's about 3 feet deep. It's horrible surface water quality. It's extremely muddy because when you cut a gash through the land, even though you put the riprap rock up, the soil runs through the rock and into the thing. So you've created a huge dirty mud puddle in the name of surface water quality, which is exactly the opposite thing that you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be encouraging recharge. The water's still standing there. There are no puddles anywhere else except in these basins. Now, I was also told about the comprehensive management plan, so I did look up some of the things about it. It's like the commission's composition by law is 15 members, some appointed by the governor and stuff like that. And it goes, for the constitutional purposes, the commission is attached to the Department of Environmental Protection. The State Act specifically says, however, the commission is independent of any supervision or control by the department, and it has the authority to exercise all powers and duties to effectuate the purposes of federal law. The plan takes its direction from federal acts which recognize the unique physical, cultural, and water quality within the Pinelands. The overriding goals are to preserve and protect and enhance the significant values of land and water resources. Yet, instead of enhancing the thing, and you're claiming that you're following the law actually 58:10A says that it establishes systems to permit discharge. Okay? But this is talking about regulatory authority, places where you have sewage treatment plants. But it is the policy of the state to restore, enhance, and maintain chemical and physical, biological integrity, to protect public health, safeguard fish and wildlife, and scenic and ecological values. Well, you've fallen way, way short of doing that, because where there used to be nothing but beautiful forest, here's your beautiful basins at exit 41. Where there were trees, it's now a flat, totally dead, barren area. The area where they were not supposed to be parking equipment is exactly where they parked it, and now that is another place that's flooded. Horrible surface water quality, and for good measure, they scooped out the center area of the Garden State Parkway and filled it with sand. It's absolutely, completely absurd, where it says to minimize disruptive activities, you bulldoze trees. Also within this is in the state area, during the 97 flood, when the spillway washed out at the FAA Tech Center, there was no flooding anywhere. I went in the back gate. Well, now because you put in a left-hand turn lane, you bulldoze this beautiful area of mature pine forests. Supposedly because the EP tells you to, that this is what they do. And I finally figured out why DEP is doing it. You would think DEP is protecting the environment. Well, here's the flood hazard area permit for the New Jersey Turnpike Authority, where they start talking about, oh, you need a flood hazard area individual permit checklist. 3 pages of checks, 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 checks. And then when you finally get to it, what is the part of the application report? Oh, let's see. There is a DEP LURP2 form. Let's see, application fee, individual permit fee, $215,000. Fee for stormwater review, $18,000. No fee, no fee. Individual permit upland, $30,000. Individual permit in water, $30,000. $11,500 for individual wetlands permits. DEP has become a self-financing shakedown squad. They are engaged in racketeering by demanding things be constructed directly in conflict with what the state law says, and they have no review whatsoever. The last thing is, they come, they say, you're required based on the law of 7:8, stormwater management. And if you look through all the stormwater, the statutory authorities, one of them says, tell DEP if you want to construct a dock, a wharf, or a waterfront project. Another one governs shellfish beds, monitoring water quality and shellfish. The Flood Hazard Control Act, here we go, reservoirs and dams. This is where you get the thing where you're saving public life and stuff. You can't construct a dam above raising the water more than 6 feet. Why? Because the Berthen Dam almost gave way. At Absegami and Mays Landing, there's all kinds of ones that are right near me. You've got ones at Browns Mills, you've got Medford Lakes. These are the things that the DEP covers.
You're getting kind of far afield of the
Well,
drainage
but there
basin,
is,
but I take your point.
but you're not preserving the life, the surface water quality. You're not protecting the wildlife and vegetation. So you're not following your own Pinelands Commission results of being responsible for the Pinelands, protecting the Pinelands quality. Instead, staff is little more than a rubber stamp for DEP. DEP tells us to do it, boom, you're approving it. And it's disgusting. The Pinelands Commission, if you don't take the Pinelands area seriously, you have the statutory authority, you have the ones that have signed the oath to follow the law, not your staff. Yet the staff seems to be doing everything to control the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill Wolf.
Excuse me, Bill Wolf, Bordentown. Before we begin, a question, Mr. Chairman. You responded to Mr. Tittle with 2 points. One was a P&I meeting in December. The second point was a response to Carlton Montgomery's letter. What was specifically, I missed it, what was that?
We're going to be discussing it in closed session
What was
today.
the issue, though?
The role of the Pinelands Commissioners with regard to private development applications.
Okay. Another question on, before I do, I have a short list. Mr. Liggett said that there had been a DRBC meeting, and then mentioned Jeff Hoffman and the low flow margin method, and some builders' concerns. Did that DRBC meeting occur with the builders? And how is Mr. Liggett aware of the builders' concern with respect to the methodology on the Cohansey? Is there a stakeholder process that's been developed for that? It's just starting. Is there a environmental component where public interest people can come to the table and talk about that?
I suggest you look at the PDC model, where we have the environmentalists, the farmers.
Am I an environmentalist, Larry? Am I an environmentalist under your definition?
Let's not get into a debate.
Okay.
So now we are.
You got to open the process because I have a serious interest in participating.
Okay, if you could state that.
Okay, the low flow margin, just for the Commission's understanding, low flow margin is fundamentally different than the science that the Commission developed for the Kirkwood Cohansey. Low flow margin method presumes certain ecological effects, whereas the science that the Commission has done looks at thresholds that are resource specific and numeric. Very fundamentally different approach, and if you're just going to try to slide that in under the DEP's low flow margin, you're going to not protect Pinelands resources. Very important point. I agree with Mr. Tittle, he stole my thunder on all those points. Excellent. Listen to him. Point on the MOA committee's deliberations, the commission needs to take a policy review of that before you even get a recommendation, and that revolves around at least two very basic issues. One is whether you're going to need CMP amendments and rules to make that guidance enforceable, and if you can't resolve that as a policy issue, put it to the lawyers and ask them if you can enforce a standard that's not promulgated in accordance with the APA under the Metro Media and other Supreme Court decisions with respect to the definition of a rule. Attorney sitting right here. And secondarily, the policy, the resource protection policy is that the MOA is a deviation from the CMP. It allows a deviation from the CMP. That's the whole purpose of its existence. Therefore, it's a form of mitigation, and you're at least obligated to go beyond the DEP mitigation ratios. Not the current rules talk about an equal or equivalent level of protection. You should clearly demand more for a deviation from the CMP, and the ratios go from 2 to 1 to 10 to 1. So you're going to have to bite that bullet at some point. And again, that's a policy. Here's an FYI matter is that the DEP will hold a second public hearing for the Water Quality Management Plan rule amendments. The Commission has a clear interest in that. It's Tuesday night in Gloucester County. It's a second hearing. I urge you to attend and listen up and participate.
Where in Gloucester County?
Tuesday night, I'll get you a particular, I don't have the address, but I think it's an evening meeting as well.
It's an evening, it's in Clayton, it was
Municipal building?
With respect to the deficiencies on the administrative review of the New Jersey natural gas issue, I again implore the Commission to conduct some kind of Attorney General's inquiry as to the facts here. We have allegations, and I hope to hear some more about that later, but we have testimony and emails and facts and allegations that there's been a fabricated military need. That would make the application itself fraudulent and perhaps implicate the applicant in improper or illegal behavior. You can't go forward with an administrative review. That's not a technical deficiency, that's a major problem. So I, again, appeal to you to put that application on hold until you get the facts as to what's going on. And if that application was fraudulently submitted, knowingly, falsely certified, false information with respect to military need, you cannot review the application. You gotta extinguish it and deny it and send it back and send it to the Attorney General's office for investigation. I want to correct the record with some of the things I said previously with respect to my inability to find a written document that said that the South Jersey gas pipeline is inconsistent with the forest standards of the CMP. I found it ultimately in the attachments to South Jersey Gas's recent compliance statement for their renewed application. They attached, I read the whole thing under a microscope, but the appendices have historic correspondence about the pre-application meetings that they conducted with staff. And those correspondence clearly talk about the fact that the pipeline was inconsistent with the forest standards, and staff had insisted on that. So, and there was no objection on the part of South Jersey Gas. They said, we met on such and such a date, thank you very much, here's the issues we discussed. So they acknowledged it, staff acknowledged it, it's a matter of record. So I was questioning that, and I've resolved it since. The other thing I found in there is very interesting. Again, this fits the I.F. Stone model of read government documents from the back forward. One of the appendices, and I don't have the date on the letter, talked about an April 2011 CMP amendment with respect to solar. And we've been kind of twisted and turning about whether the Commission has legal authority to have jurisdiction over energy and climate and CO2. The solar CMP explicitly recognized societal benefits with respect to, quote, reduction or elimination of carbon dioxide emissions, a global warming gas. That's in the text of the CMP. You recognized it as a fact. You recognized energy infrastructure. You recognized the policy objective of a good thing to reduce baseload fossil fuel plants. And this wonderful paragraph is all summarized very tightly from this April 2011 CMP amendment on solar. And it ironically was used by South Jersey Gas to justify the BL England plant, which was textually the exact opposite of what the commission was saying were the benefits of solar, that South Jersey Gas boldly captured that logic and applied it to the BL England power plant. How they did that is this Orwellian logic that Tittle referred to that we're dealing with. Documents and find and discover that. I'm done. Thank you.
Next is Ellis.
I apologize. I also thought it was.
Oh, okay. All right, no problem. Okay, and Cynthia Hart.
Hello, Cynthia Hart, Ocean City, New Jersey. I'm here to read a letter that will be distributed to all of you from my friend Dr. Bob Allen, who was unable to attend today. I am Dr. Bob Allen, former Director of Education for District 1199P, the National Union of Hospital and Healthcare Employees, AFL-CIO. I taught for the Pennsylvania State University for over 10 years and currently teach for Cumberland County College of New Jersey and both Wilmington and Stockton universities. I'm a voter, resident, taxpayer, and property owner in Upper Township, Cape May County, New Jersey. I am in total and unequivocal opposition to the South Jersey Gas proposal to construct a major transmission pipeline through the New Jersey Pinelands area. I reiterate what has been said by thousands of citizens, numerous organizations, and echoed in press editorials that neither the BPU nor the Pinelands Commission has any ethical or legal ability to approve such a pipeline. If you as commissioners allow your executive director to continue along a path to approval, you will surely find the BPU and the commission mired in a lengthy legal battle that will waste the time and energy of both entities, divert them from their true mission, and cost the New Jersey taxpayers dearly. I specifically voice objection and strong opposition to the request made by South Jersey Gas that the BPU allow changes such that, quote, the zoning, site plan review, and all other municipal land use ordinances and regulations promulgated pursuant to Title 40 of the New Jersey Statuses and the Municipal Land Use Act of the State of New Jersey shall not apply to this project.
Excuse me, Ms. Hart.
Yes.
I hate to interrupt, but you've given us a copy.
I'm reading this for the record.
Well,
And
you
us.
can include it in the record.
We'd like to hear it.
It's rather lengthy letter.
We'd like to hear it.
But today I primarily want to address the Commissioner's attention to the safety issues you and the BPU have been ignoring as pertains to the instant application. Many months ago, I raised some of these basic concerns with the Commission, and I've never heard a reply nor seen evidence that these matters are being taken into consideration as regards to the public safety of residents, homes, and businesses along the proposed pipeline route. I stand with thousands of others who oppose this high-volume, high-pressure South Jersey Gas pipeline intrusion into the Pinelands. Some basic facts you must consider. South Jersey Gas Company's website as of August 1st, 2013 states this pipeline will be 24-inch diameter pipe moving gas up to 437 pounds pressure. Scientists and engineers use a term called potential impact radius, the acronym PIR, for determining state setback distances for habitation in the vicinity of any pipeline. The PIR is determined by pipe diameter, material, and working pressure. The PIR for this pipeline is an enormous 346.18 feet, longer than an FLL football field. That is a significant potential impact area for residences, public and commercial buildings along the proposed pipeline route. Within the area described by the PIR calculation, nothing would remain survivable in the event of the worst category of accident accident involving the breach and combustion of the pipeline and its initial contents. The proposed South Jersey gas pipeline will run near the following properties at the following distance. There will be 10 residents, 0 to 25 feet, and 2 commercial properties. There'll be 30 residents, only 26 to 50 feet, and 9 commercial properties. There'll be 43, 51 to 75 feet, and 7 commercial. 76 to 100 feet, there'll be 47 properties. 101 to 125, there'll be 42. Yet there is more to consider. Authorities such as Technical Standards and Safety Authority of Canada and C. Rhodes B. England, PhD, author of Natural Gas Pipeline Safety Setback, suggests that 1 PIR setback to be too conservative. Instead, they recommend 2 to 4 times these distances when consideration is made for age and mobility of folks in the area, wind and firefighting capacity in the nearby environment. The Pinelands are in a naturally fire-prone ecosystem. Any responsible official, regulator, or politician must take into account the scientific basis for seeing the dangers of this proposed pipeline to the human population and their structures, both residential and business. You must make every effort to stop this application in its tracks, at least until you have the ability to independently assess the dangers and other impacts of the proposed pipeline. Whether you allow your executive director to shoulder the responsibility for the final decision on this instant application is most irrelevant, given the public perception that any approval done is on your watch. Both history and the public will hold you accountable for any approval that, one, scars the very area you are, in theory, serving to protect, and which, two, may cost lives in the bargain. I urge you to do what it takes to stop this project proposed by South Jersey Gas. If you cannot do that immediately, you must at least declare a moratorium on any pipeline decisions pending truly scientific investigations of the safety of the project and other relevant impacts, both environmental and those of human safety. And that's from Dr. Bob Allen. Thank you.
Regina Shannon.
Good morning, Georgina Shanley, Ocean City. I've been coming here for 2.5 years, often twice a month. And what I've seen is our democracy being turned on its head. I've seen Mr. Lowbauer, the chair, encourage people to come and speak and present the science. There are many experts on this side of the table. Bill Wolf, we've got Jeff Tittle, we've got George Hay, we've got Micah here, we've got many experts that have provided very significant information and are willing to work with the commission and work with the staff. But I've never ever seen any reaching out to these people to sit down and hammer out some of this information. People have submitted lots of good science about the Pinelands, about the policies of the Pinelands, and there has never been any kind of connection made as a follow-up. And I know you're all volunteers, so maybe it's a time issue, but I hear over and over again, coming here, that the staff meets with the builders and people who have vested interest in projects, and there's never an inclusion of the citizen. And we just take the pledge, there's supposed to be liberty and justice for all. And I've seen this South Jersey application in particular go from 0 all the way through where it was denied in January of 2014. And now suddenly you have lost control. There's been all kinds of political shenanigans going on. The application has gone from a public application to a private application, which means there are no standards. And the executive director can make this decision. There's something very wrong here. There's something very wrong, and it's like a nightmare in a way. It's something that's unraveling, that's been very ugly to see and to experience. And here we have Upper Township coming in with an application for not just forgiveness of the violations, which aren't even mentioned, but also to rebuild on this. I think that should not be given. You have to put your foot down somewhere, and I think that that's a good start. There's just no end to the outside influences in this very pure commission that's serving really the Pinelands and the people in the Pinelands and the people in the state of New Jersey. And what's happened is this monster has come in the form of politics and power, and it's usurped the role of the commissioners and given it to the administrators. And it shouldn't happen. It really shouldn't happen. I think it really is time to have a moratorium on these huge infrastructures that are only promoting fossil fuel industry and changing our climate more. It's not like just words. It's like a real thing. There should be a moratorium. And it's imperative that there is. If these two pipelines are allowed to go through, we're just finished, and it's a damn shame. And it's a shame on everybody who's taken some responsibility. In the end, all of our grandchildren are going to suffer. But maybe not even our grandchildren. Some are young enough to have their children suffer. So, I think it's very unfair. I think there has to be a moratorium. Not only is the gas going to damage with the methane, also like there was a big explosion. There was like an earthquake in Elizabeth, New Jersey yesterday, and many people were injured. And it's too damn dangerous. There's not one good reason to have this thing. We don't even, and the lies by the politicians that we need it. We need the energy, reliance, redundancy, jobs, all that stuff. That has nothing to do with you. The commissioner should really be given the power to make this decision. And it should not be allowed to be made by somebody who worked for the Builders Association and fast-track permits in the DEP. Thank you.
Natalie Nice.
Yes, I wanted to speak about Tuckahoe in Upper Township. I had the opportunity to go to the courthouse and look at some deeds. And through it all, I happened to notice that Upper Township has an enormous amount of property that's tax exempt in the Tuckahoe Fire District. And a lot of it was probably given to them through estates and for the public works. So I don't think that that site is the only place for their public works. The last 6 months, over the summer, the shore traffic through 49 and 50 and 631, Tuckahoe is a mess. People have lost their front yards, they've lost their fences, people are losing their trees. Businesses are, I'm sorry?
How are they living from, are you talking about
Well,
flood damage
the state is cutting back their front yards, they're putting in curbing, sidewalks, and there's no buffers there. Accidents are happening, cars are running into people's front yards. The Mount Pleasant Tuckahoe Road was 2 ways, it's now 1 way, it's closed off. The Public Works, all those Tuckahoe or Upper Township buildings have closed off that you can't even go through to get to Highway 50. It's a mess. How many people on this board have been to Tuckahoe and have seen what's going on there in the last 6 months?
they're widening the road to make it more accessible for shore traffic. That, the size of that road was determined years ago, and they never widened it. Now they are widening it to give better access through Tuckahoe for the summer traffic.
I'm not sure you're correct, because I heard that it was designated as a historic district and it cannot be widened. It's torn up because of the gas line, and they're putting in sidewalks and curbing. They're not widening it. They're changing.
They are widening the road.
Well, I heard it was a historic district and that couldn't happen. Anyway, I want to object to the certificate of filing that gave South Jersey Gas the ability to go to the BPU and preempt home rule our Upper Township Zoning Board and resident input. At the BPU hearing, their engineer told me there is no need for an Upper Township easement, an ordinance, or a resolution. And I'm wondering if there's anything this commission can do to stop this project into Tuckahoe and through Upper Township, down the shoulder, the highway, the public shoulder of the road to the BL, England, Rockland.
Your question is whether or not the commissioners.
If you can do anything to stop this project.
At the moment, the way we understand it, we don't have a role in that application. We're going to be discussing whether commissioners have a role or not.
Okay, but it was my understanding that it was this commission that gave them the certificate of filing that allowed them to go to the BPU, where they held a hearing now to preempt any kind of citizen input.
Certificates of filing function of commission staff. Staff issued that.
The staff issued that?
Yes.
How many people on the staff issued that?
I don't know if you can answer the question, depending on what people were involved in, exactly how many.
More than one?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, but as a resident of Upper Township, I just feel that these things were done behind the people's back, and now it's to the point where I guess the BPU is going to make some kind of a ruling, and if this happens, that means nobody in Upper Township is going to have any kind of input, because there will be no zoning meetings, so we won't have any say in like the safety or the site, any buffers in that area where the interconnect station's going. And I'm also concerned because it's going to run all the way down the shoulder. They're not even going to, have to buy any easements against people's properties. And what happens if someday there is an incident? Who's going to, stand behind the damages? And I'm just shocked that this would come to this point. And, and hearing what Mr. Dimitrov had to say about his property, I have a little historical house, and, I've had all kinds of problems for the last 20 years, and I have that same railroad to the BL England plant goes through my property. So, do I have a 60-foot, or do they have a 60-foot easement, or do they have a 130-foot easement? Like, where is the oversight? So, hopefully you'll come up with something that you can do. I don't know how it got to this. Thank you.
Michael Rasmussen.
Thank you. This is only my third month at your meetings, and I already find myself getting a little philosophical. There's a reason why 4 former governors write letters to you, and that is because as they look back on their terms, their protection of this region and of this asset is among their greatest achievements that they reflect on. It is a special place It's a place I grew up in. I've worked or lived in every county in the Pinelands. And I can tell you that in my time working in government, working in the governor's office, the protection of land, the protection of region, the protection of the highlands, the protection of the Pinelands, certainly ranks among the things that I cherish most about my service in government. The New Jersey natural gas pipeline is a matter that you as a commission have not heard before, unlike the other pipeline. It's one that you've not heard, you've not ruled on. I'm glad to hear that the Pinelands Commission staff is looking for more information about the application. But I hope that you have heard enough. My goal and my hope is that you have heard enough questions and enough concerns raised that you at least want to hear more. You at least want to know what's going on with this application. Because from my perspective, where there is smoke, there's fire. And there are more than sufficient grounds for a full commission hearing to see what's going on here so that you can determine for yourself. Jeff Tittle spoke to the amount of gas that we're talking about. This pipeline, the New Jersey natural gas pipeline, would deliver 1 million homes worth of gas into the Pinelands. That is the company's own calculation. They are a partner in the Penn East pipeline, which is through Lambertville and through the Delaware River region of New Jersey. And I'll get more to Pinelands, more to Penn East in one moment. But Penn East says that they have enough gas they will have enough gas to fuel 4.7 million homes. New Jersey Natural Gas has contracted for 20% of Penn East capacity. That means that they would have enough capacity with just that volume of gas for 1 million homes. Now guess what? There's not 1 million homes in the Pinelands region. There's not 1 million homes in the entire Pinelands. There's not 1 million homes in all of Monmouth and Ocean County. It's double New Jersey Natural Gas's entire customer base. It's more than the Joint Base uses. It's more than any of all of their customers put together. So clearly, this is a larger pipeline than necessary. What they won't say is where the gas is going. But it's not intended to serve this region. It's not intended to serve their customer base. It's more than they need. The Rate Council in the BPU proceeding has determined, their expert testimony has concluded that is a larger pipeline than what is necessary to serve the public. They've also established that there's not been a cost-benefit analysis of the pipeline. They've determined that there's been no verification of the reliability claims. This is an enormous amount of gas. It is far more than this area needs. And again, I just want to be very clear. The Penn East pipeline, 20% capacity has been contracted by New Jersey Natural Gas. New Jersey Natural Gas proposes to move it into its system via this pipeline. They have contracted the SRL pipeline is designed to carry 180 decatherms of gas a day into its system. The Southern Reliability Link, that is the application that's before you. It's designed to carry 180,000 decatherms a day of gas into this region. That is the same amount of gas, the identical amount of gas that they have contracted to purchase from Penn East. So they are trying to get their own gas into their own system via this pipeline. That's the motivation. It's profit. Now, I'm not here to tell you that profit's a bad thing. I'm just here to tell you that it's different than public need. It's different than public interest. It is not necessarily, when you look at and you try to weigh out the impact on the Pinelands region versus the public benefit, profit is not necessarily your foremost concern. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Their application to you, New Jersey Natural Gas's application to you, says that SRL will strengthen the natural gas infrastructure of the Joint Base. This is false. This is absolutely false. The Joint Base is not even, 2/3 of the Joint Base is served by PSE&G. It's not served by New Jersey Natural Gas. All of Fort Dix, all of Fort McGuire, they are served by PSE&G. There is nothing in the application, in either the Pinelands application or the BPU application, that suggests that there's been any coordination with PSE&G to determine whether or not they think that their ability to deliver natural gas to the base is compromised in any way. They signed a privatization agreement with both Dix and McGuire to provide gas in the year 2000. They signed an agreement that said that they would provide natural gas to those bases on a non-interruptible basis. They will not interrupt their gas flow to those bases. They have never said that they have a problem delivering it on a non-interruptible basis. They've never said that they're challenged to do that. They've never said that they need the Southern Reliability Link in order to do that. Nobody's ever asked them if they need the Southern Reliability Link in order to do that. I promise, I'm drawing to a close.
Saying you're repeating yourself.
Yeah, okay, all right, okay, I will move on. So, the SRL, as it's designed, the application that's before you, contains not a single tie-in to the joint base, not a single tie-in to PSE&G system, not a single tie-in to anything except New Jersey Natural Gas's own system. So when they tell you on their application, and when they certify that their applications are true, that they're going to tie into the base, that they're going to serve the base, that they're going to serve anything except for their own needs, they're absolutely not telling you the truth. That is absolutely false. And again, I appreciate that the commission staff is asking questions. I hope they continue to ask questions. What my hope is that you take, I know you take your responsibility to this region seriously. I know that you are here because you view this as a special responsibility, almost a sacred responsibility. I hope that you have enough questions about what's really going on with this massive pipe that's double the need of this region, to want to know more about what's going on, to want to hold a full commission hearing, to want to hear out this case, which you have not done to this date, and I hope that you will.
There would be no use by the military base at all?
The SRL, if you look at the design of the SRL,
Yeah.
they do not propose to tie into the joint base in any way. They do not propose, the only tie-in, in other words, the pipe begins at the side of the road, side of the turnpike in Chesterfield. That's where the pipe opens up, right? It receives gas off the interstate pipeline there.
Yeah.
It empties into New Jersey Natural Gas's system in Lakehurst. Not in Lakehurst, military base, off the base.
Okay.
So there is not a single tie-in to infrastructure on the base itself. They have said that what they've told you is that they might, at some point in the future, add infrastructure on the base. There is nothing at this point that does that, and I would respectfully tell you that if this was an application from a homeowner, you would tell them to come back when they have an application that serves that future, contemplates that future use, or you wouldn't rule on it today based on a future use. You decide it when the time came. So, this vague assurance that at some point down the line we're going to tie into the base, it's fictitious. It's a fiction.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay.
Marquis, Meister Jackson?
Nobody can live there. There's no water, there's nothing. And they are now packing up and want to go and move to Western Europe. Just to be able to make a living and to be able to live, water and food. So basically these things need to be addressed on the local level because that is where the problem starts. And if we cut down any more trees, and this is supposed to have been the first national reserve here, the Pinelands. And it formed the basis for everything else. It would be a kind shame to actually cut down vegetation and so on. I also work on sea level rise, on water issues, and the land mass, the mid-Atlantic land mass is sinking because we're taking too much out. It's resource extraction, water, drinking water, and so on. We really need to be very careful not to be able to tap into that any further, or to have some limits to that. Furthermore, a few months or about a couple of years ago, when South Jersey Gas was here and their application was heard before the final vote, it was brought up as a safety issue. Well, they said, oh, it's perfectly safe, to put a gas pipeline through the Pinelands. I would say yesterday was a news report, no, it was this morning, it was a news report. Nobody here talks about homeland terrorism. If you have 22 miles or a stretch of miles, especially as we have heard here this morning, along residential areas and business and so on. South Jersey gets said, oh, we're going to monitor, we're going to monitor. How can they do that? With homeland terrorism. I mean, we have drones, we have lasers, we have all sorts of things now that can attack a pipeline. I'm not an expert on these things, but there are a lot of things that must be floating around there to attack this. It would be absolutely catastrophic for the businesses and for the people that live there. They may not ever get out. And there was a news report here this morning on the radio that the young people in this state are being radicalized, and everybody, adult and young children, need to be made aware of it, of what goes on around them, and listen to conversation and so on. So it would be a perfect introduction to that. So I would suggest, possibly, before anything like this gets approved, it shouldn't be just FERC in Washington, but also Homeland Security, because it would be a security issue. Now there was something about Penn East. As far as I have read, New Jersey National Gas is not part of Penn East, but PSE and PSE.
No, they are.
There are 5 different companies or 6 different companies that are involved with Penn East. Since, as of yesterday, the liquid natural gas port out in the ocean has been voided. Governor Cuomo and Governor Christie had agreed not to let that happen. So what are they going to do with all this gas? They cannot export it, apparently, because that was one of the plans, I guess. And so...
Not to us.
No. But I mean, these things, and these things need to be talked about on a local level, and not just make deals here and there. Let me tell you something. I had about, in the early years, 2005, I had gotten 21 solar panels erected in my back property. I haven't had an electric bill since. So, and that is just solar. Now we have wind power, and that has been approved now, so maybe there is another alternative. And plus, conservation. Everybody was talking about conservation. Yeah, limit the air conditioning, cut down your heater in the winter time, or the lights. Yeah, that would all help. So we really need to consider these kind of things.
Thank you very much. Okay. Jason Howard.
Musical chairs here. What's happening? Try and secure these 5 minutes.
Good morning. Jason Howell, Pinelands Preservation Alliance. I just want to thank the Commission for taking an interest in the topic of off-road vehicle damage in the Pinelands. This activity has been severely damaging habitat for the last 30 years, but we've seen a large increase, especially in the last 10 to 15 years. I have been personally documenting over 122 sites where this activity has taken place, and it has become a large impact both to habitat and to public access. Some areas aren't even walkable. Cherry Hill Road, for instance, I would have to take my kayak down in order to get to the end of it. So I just wanted to thank you for taking a strong interest in this topic.
Thank you very much. Marilyn Bloom.
Marilyn
Tom's River, number 13 on the 13th.
Yes, that's right. I was careful going home.
Well, not just for that reason.
Hey, I was not afraid.
But
That was a joke.
guess what? When I'm driving on Route 70, I take my life in my hands.
Yes, we all do.
I worked for the Department of Defense. I believe I've mentioned that.
Yes.
And I'm aware of the psychological impact of a person saying, you did this, you did that, or you didn't do this, or you didn't do that. It creates this type of feeling. I would not want to be where everybody is sitting right now. Yet, I've said this before, I care passionately about the Pine Barrens. I was walking through Whitesboro, not Whitesboro, that's in Cape May, you slip down Cape May, Whitesboro. Right next to the bombing range. I wonder if anybody has ever experienced that feeling of the ground shaking and looking and seeing a huge plume after a bomb has been detonated. I wonder if anybody here has lived in close proximity like I have, where the house is also shaking and the windows. I can't imagine a pipeline anywhere near a bombing range. I rely on everybody here that does the research and knows a lot more than I do. I cannot articulate to you what has been said. I thank God, and I've said this before, I thank God there are people here that care, but they go one step beyond, they do the research. It takes a lot of time and effort. I am reminded many years ago when my son was in the Air Force, stationed at McGuire, but then he got transferred to a small base in Arizona. And I went to an all-American Indian rodeo. And the lead car was driving onto the field. And my husband at the time and my son were all excited. Oh, he's so-and-so. We've seen him on TV. I didn't know what they were talking about. It was, maybe I've mentioned this before also, an American Indian, and the ad on the TV commercial shows him crying. I understand that feeling.
Thank you. Great.
Good morning. My name is Fred Akers. I'm the administrator with the Greater Harbor Watershed Association. And I'm also want to thank the P&I Committee and the Pinelands Commission staff for beginning to engage in the motorized recreation issue. I've been studying the statutes closely and administrative code, and I wanted to share with you some of your history today. This is a document that was the first comprehensive management plan. And unlike the online version today, this plan had the vision and some of the philosophy and the ideas behind the rules and regulations.
I think you and Candy are the only two that still have it. Oh, it's on the website.
One of the things that I want to announce today is that I made a recent discovery
Here, Paul just threw it up.
that this is now digitized and it's on the website. And Paul is the website guy that's providing stuff. So I'm very happy. I have this, look at it, it's all torn up and used and everything. So now I
His
can,
copy was autographed by Brendan Burns.
so now I can go digital. So if you look at that, let me start with that. I'm not going to really be that long. In there is a recreation section, and I've printed a hard copy for all of you of the entire recreation section, where it talks about protecting the Pinelands, forever, 30 years ago, in 1980. So there was a vision that this motorized recreation had the potential to become like a real problem. And on page 253, I think it is, my printer didn't like the digitized version here. There's a recommendation on management of public lands in the original CMP. It says, to guide the future management of these important resources, the Commission recommends that the Department of Environmental Protection consult with the Pinelands Commission in developing a comprehensive recreation land management plan for state open space areas within the Pinelands. So this was a long-time recommendation, and I don't think that it ever was implemented. I don't think it occurred. And I think now is an opportunity, with as mature as this baby is, to engage in that. And I did look at the State Park Service has a code, like you guys have 7:50, the State Park Service has 7:2. And if you look at that, I'm not going to bore you with the language, but it says in there that they have the rules and regulations to protect their land, to close areas, and to do the job they need to do. And nowhere in there did I read that it says, but first, we have to ask permission from the public to do that. And I was at the meeting a week ago Thursday, and I was very disappointed that the state kind of led the public comment meeting with an apology to the public for doing their job. And it was pretty sad. So I'm encouraged that you're engaging the state in the process. I also gave you a copy of a recent letter at the back from the Commissioner of DEP, and maybe you should invite the Commissioner to come and say, we want to implement the vision from 30 years ago now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nina Smith.
Hi, good morning, Lena Smith from Clean Water Watch. Last night I was at the Chesterfield Township Council meeting, and Chesterfield is where the New Jersey natural gas pipeline will link into the Transco pipeline. And something that came out during the meeting from the township lawyer, the committee, and the community was that they do not trust New Jersey natural gas. The New Jersey natural gas has made false claims to them. One of the examples they brought up was an email that the lawyer received from New Jersey Natural Gas, and a group of lawyers received it working to stop the pipeline. And the email claimed that the Burlington County freeholders were going to back down from trying to stop the pipeline. And the lawyer followed up with the freeholders who actually claimed that they had not done any such thing. So this is one example where New Jersey Natural Gas is deceiving the public about the need for this pipeline. Then there is the joint base issue with New Jersey Natural Gas. One where the company misrepresented information about the blast radius impact to officials on the joint base, and the other is where they are trying to reroute the pipeline through the base or propose a route through the base and claim that there is need on the base when where we've heard today that this is misinformation, that it's a false statement that there will be need for the base. Then there is the concern regarding the true purpose of this pipeline, where New Jersey Natural Gas is claiming one thing to their investors and another thing to the BPU and to the Pinelands Commission. And so they're stating contradictory purposes, they're deceiving the public, and it's for the purpose of corporate greed. They're trying to make a profit based on the current market of natural gas. So I'm concerned that the staff decision makers of this application will again approve the project without allowing a public process, and therefore it's crucial that the commissioners take action to ensure that the application comes before this commission for a vote, and completely reject the application because it's being put forward under false pretenses. But the larger issue is that the commission does not have a clear approval process for pipelines and should put a moratorium on pipeline applications to undergo a review process of policies on energy infrastructure, as well as a deeper look at the cumulative impacts of these projects on climate change and the direct future of the Pinelands. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Raven Petoskey from Manchester Township. And I want to say thank you to all of you for being here and doing what you do. Okay, I live in the Pine Barrens, right in the heart, across the street from Greenwood Forest, and I feel very fortunate that I live in the most densely populated state in this country, and that yet we have conserved this land in the heart of our state. And it means very, very much to me, as I'm sure it does to all of you. I rely on all of you to protect that land. I know you don't have an easy job. It's probably much more comfortable to take on the turf farm than it is to take on the gas companies. But I urge you to be strong. I urge you to be strong. They're bullies. Governor Christie is probably on their side, my suspicions. But look at the victories just last week with Keystone, as Jeff had mentioned. Yesterday, the LNG port got turned down by Governor Cuomo. Thank God for New York. And I just, from my heart, I just want to ask you all to be strong and do your job. A lot of people have mentioned a lot of evidence that you can use to turn down the second pipeline. I'm not quite sure what happened with the first pipeline. I'm not a government employee, I'm just a citizen. I'm also a member of the Sierra Club and PPA. But I believe you said no, and that's wonderful. And then they came back, because no doesn't always mean no, I guess. And somehow you laid down your power to the BPU. I'm not sure what the hierarchy is, and I hope that if you make the right decisions and turn down this second pipeline, which will run through the Pine Barrens, somebody doesn't trump card you on that one as well. Because I'm not sure what happened. It's a little confusing to me. I don't know what you mean when you say the staff. And, you know. But I hope that you have the authority to do what you need to do. Thank you very much.
That's the end of the list. If there was anyone else that...
Your last name is Howell? Yeah. Are you aware? A little bit, but probably not.
Good morning, Rich Bizzo, Pinelands Preservation Alliance. I'd just like to say a few words about the Kirkwood-Cohansey initiative. Certainly at PTA, we're pleased to hear Larry bring up the Kirkwood-Cohansey initiative, meeting with Delaware River Basin Commission and others. And I think it's important to point out that, to the public, that this Kirkwood-Cohansey initiative really has a long history to it. The Pinelands process, right from the get-go, was very forward-thinking, looking at groundwater withdrawals as an environmental issue. The water allocation rules are structured such that, quote, user only came down to basically other water purveyors. The environment was never considered a user. And the commission recognized that, like I said, right from the very beginning,
right from the 80s, recognized that it was important to have the science to move forward and make sound policy decisions. And I remember at the hearing, when the work plan was being discussed, and leading up to that, that the process was almost hijacked by the builders trying to convert that study into a water supply plan. And the commission held firm, thank goodness, and really moved forward with, in our opinion, at PPA, coming up with some really groundbreaking, sound science to really look at water withdrawals. So, thank you for that. I would like to just support what Bill Wolf had to say about the two different methods, the low flow margin method and the method that came out of the Kirkwood-Cohansey study. You know, the low flow margin method is really a method to look at stream flow per se. And what came out of the Kirkwood-Cohansey study was really a methodology to look at the ecology. And what also came out of the study was that by the time you statistically see, maybe I'm mixing other studies too, but by the time you statistically see changes in groundwater flow, you have already converted vast areas of wetlands into uplands or changed wetland class. So we certainly encourage you to really proceed along the lines of what came out of the study, and that is looking at withdrawal as a percentage of recharge. Thank you.
Thank you.
Man, why is it doing this? Why is it doing
I'd like to say just that there has been a 20-inch high-pressure gas line through Tuckahoe Upper Township since 1948, 67 years, and people don't even know it's there.
Thank you.
Arnold Fishman, Bedford Lakes. I have a question, but my question has a pretty long preamble. The reason, it's important for the commission to recognize that the reason month after month you keep getting confusion and questions about the South Jersey gas pipeline is because from a procedural point of view, the posture of this application is really bizarre. As I understand the procedure, an applicant contacts staff and says, here's what I want to do. And staff tells them how they can go about doing it if they can. And this was done initially, and it was determined that an MOA was required. And it was required because the determination was made that what the applicant wanted to do was inconsistent with the CMP. In order to get an MOA, you have to be a public applicant. So South Jersey Gas goes out and enlists the BPU as a shill to act as its public face.
That's your characterization.
It is. To act as its face, to make this a public application so that it would qualify for a deviation MOA. And it is determined that not only does it miss the mark of the CMP, but it misses the mark to the tune of $8 million, a negotiated figure between staff and the applicant, as I understand it. It then receives a positive recommendation from staff and comes before, and goes before the P&I committee that punts and sends it to the full commission without a recommendation from that committee. And the commission fails to approve the staff recommendation. And accordingly, it fails. And the applicant then takes a twofold approach. One, appeals the determination of the Pinelands Commission on one hand, and on the other hand comes back with a, quote, amended application. And the amended application jettisons its shill, my words, so that it's now a private application instead of a public application, and submits, and as such, staff is then required to determine whether or not that application is in the interest, I'm not sure the exact words, beneficial to the Pinelands. And that determination is made that it is beneficial to the Pinelands, and the matter is then, and a certificate of filing is issued, and the matter is sent back to the shill to determine whether it should go forward or not. So the only thing that the action of the full commission really accomplished was that it saved the applicant $8 million. So here we are, trying to figure out, we the public, trying to figure out what happened. What happened? This commission and its staff, in its name, operates in a quasi-judicial fashion. Courts of law issue, when they make decisions, issue opinions so that everybody can understand how they got there. And that's what we're trying to figure out. We're trying to figure out how this application went from not being beneficial to the Pinelands to being beneficial to the Pinelands. And the only justification that I've ever heard to attempt to do that was that gas is cleaner burning than coal. And the literature, just for example, the latest issue of The Nation magazine says that if you include the ecological costs of the production of gas, then burning gas is worse than burning coal. So my question is, a paper, a writing, something that the public could look at, which we lawyers would call findings of fact and conclusions of law, by which the executive director made a determination that this amended application is in the interest and beneficial to the Pinelands. If this monster gets approved, there will certainly be litigation. And appellate courts look at a record, and absent those findings, there's really nothing for an appellate court to look at. So my question to the commission, I would hope that I would get an answer, is whether or not there is a writing that we could look at, that the public could look at, which explains how the determination was made that this amended application is beneficial to the Pinelands.
I can answer that.
I think my response to that, Mr. Chairman, would be the certificate of filing on the last page, in the last paragraph, provides an overview of the basis of the commission staff's review. I think it's important to note that all the applicant has to do is demonstrate that it meets the permitted land use standards of the Pinelands plan. And in this case, the standard in question was whether or not the gas main was a permitted use in the forest area. The applicant submitted additional information when it amended its application to be a private development application, and submitted information to demonstrate how the proposed gas main in the amended application would meet the permitted land use standard in the forest management area. And that information is contained in the certificate of filing, and the basis of the staff's recommendation of finding are contained in that certificate of filing.
Is one of those conditions that it be beneficial to the Pinelands?
Yes.
No, we don't have it. What the standard is that the proposed gas main has to be consistent with the regulations in the Pinelands Comprehensive Management Plan. An applicant doesn't have to demonstrate per se that it's, quote, beneficial to the Pinelands, nor do they have to really demonstrate under our regulations, quote, need for it. They have to demonstrate that it meets our permitted land use standards and our environmental standards. So to try to clarify that a little bit, if another applicant comes to us to build, and I'm going to use a different example, 50 single-family dwellings, we don't ask that applicant, is there a need for those dwellings? That's not in our regulations. Our regulations are, does it meet our environmental standards, and does it meet our permitted land use standards? We don't have the ability to ask people, whatever their application may be, for a drugstore. Is there a need for another drugstore? That's not outlined in our rules. I hope I answered your question.
So a pipeline is a committed, permitted use through the forest preservation area?
On our Pinelands, do you want me to continue?
I might be able to help on your question. I think you're probably referring to language that was originally referred to in the application, that a section of the CMP, and forgive me, I can't quote the section,
Primarily serves only
primarily serves into the Pinelands.
Yes.
With regard to utility projects. However, if I understand the director correctly, that particular provision does not apply in this case. Right now.
No, that's not correct.
It doesn't apply because it's no longer a utility?
How can you say that? It applies.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That provision clearly applies. That's a permitted land use standard in our regulations. For someone to demonstrate that a proposed gas main is a permitted land use in the Pinelands forest area, they have to make a certain demonstration. And the words that have been used, I'm not sure I'm going to get them literally right by memory. It's primarily to serve only the needs of the Pinelands. The words in our regulations. And the applicant submitted information in their amended application to demonstrate how they met that standard. They represented that they had additional information. The staff reviewed that and made the determination that it met the permitted land use standard based on that new information. And there's a summary of that attached to the certificate of filing in the last paragraph.
I'm sorry, I misspoke.
And that's because it was cleaner burning?
It doesn't address the burning bill. It addresses delivery of gas to a Pineland, a user in the Pinelands.
To Pinelands consumers?
To a user in the Pinelands.
To a user?
If I understand.
Well, you're going to continue to get these questions because it is what's going on here procedurally is incomprehensible, at least to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Appreciate it if we can These remarks made, we've got an executive session we have to get to.
So you say that right before I come up. I think I'm gonna be a long time.
Not trying to pick on.
Mary Ann Clementi, Barnegat. I just wanted to point out in the agenda, you had something about climate, a meeting on November 18th on climate variability and climate change. So you are caring about that. As Jeff Tittle had brought up, that climate change is something very important. And these pipelines are really not supporting the issue of climate change right now. It was just one other thing that I bring up some things that I see as improper when I see like people looking at their cell phones while commissioners while we're speaking. One of the commissioners just brought up something that I think that shouldn't be brought up by a commissioner. It was something about speaking about a pipeline in Tuckahoe that has been there for 67 years and there's no problem with that. That shows a little bit of prejudice on the part of a commissioner before you're voting on something. So, but in the future, I mean, there's pipelines before the commission right now. And I think that just shows a little bit of prejudice that really shouldn't come from, everybody, you know.
That's your opinion, but commissioners are
right.
free.
I'm just mentioning what I'm viewing.
Okay.
Also in line with what Jeff Tittle brought up is that things are changing around with the president not supporting the Keystone Pipeline and Governor Cuomo and the LNG. The president is now supporting, he's calling for new guidelines on methane gas. I had the opportunity of meeting the president on Monday for the second time and got to speak to him about fracked gas and how these pipelines are ruining our environment. So things are changing. So we're in the 21st century, and I'm hoping, I know that you guys care about the Pinelands. You care about what's happening in our environment. And before you go into executive session, since you're going to be talking about the role of the commission in terms of this pipeline and private applications, etc., I encourage you to remember that you, commissioners, are the ones that took the oath to preserve, protect, and enhance the Pinelands. The staff didn't. They should not have the final say on something as important as these pipelines going through our precious Pinelands. Our water, our aquifers, our environment depends on it. So just remember, you are the ones that took that oath. You are the ones responsible. You are the stewards of our precious Pinelands. Thank you.
Michelle Post with the Atlantic City Press. Can you just explain why you need to talk about what you're going to talk about in private, if you're going to be talking about the commissioners?
Subject to litigation.
But can you talk about commissioners' roles outside of litigation in public and then go into private for anything regarding litigation?
We have spoken about it publicly.
No, I assume there's going to be kind of a debate. I think, there may be aspects of what you're talking about.
We're going to be hearing from the Deputy Attorney General, his response to the letter that involves an application that's pending before the commission. We can't discuss it publicly.
Oh, okay, I thought it was a more general discussion. Thank you.
But you come out afterwards and talk, you might.
In a very general way. Okay. Yes.
George Hayes, Summers Point, New Jersey, a South Jersey gas ratepayer, and I am affiliated with a group called Integrated Resource Network. My expertise is really out of the electric and gas industry in California, doing integrated resource planning and
formerly being on the Ocean City Utility Advisory Commission with Robert, I've been very interested, going all the way back to 1989, on looking at alternatives to what has been proposed by South Jersey Gas. But my major points, though, to try to summarize, and I want to thank you all for your efforts. I got into my field because of reading John McAfee's The Pine Barrens, and it's wonderful to come here for the first time and see it come up 563, see the Wading River in places I used to canoe as a kid, and you do important work. But I think there's 2 points I want to make. Actually, it's 1 point, really. I really encourage looking at a 2-year moratorium on any decision that even remotely relates to any of these gas pipelines. The amount of power isn't just the state utilities, it's the gas industry in Pennsylvania, the gas industry in Texas, it's political campaign contributions, it's, as a utility, I'm appalled by the utilities, or an ex-utility guy, I'm appalled by the behaviors in New Jersey of mixing stockholder and ratepayer interest, particularly on the South Jersey gas pipeline. And this whole thing of 1 second they're private, 1 second they're public. But I really don't want to have my bill taxed, so to speak. And this is a tax, is the way that on my electric bill is the way this pipeline would be paid for, to give corporate welfare to a big private entity that's Texas-based. And it's just a for-profit venture. It has nothing to do with the benefit of New Jersey. And there's multiple evidence to that effect. But behind the moratorium concept, and it could be just as simple as the decision on the station in Upper Township and this granting permission to forgive past sins type of things, that really maybe shouldn't be decided on right now, because there's a whole lot of other things coming. And the heroic response to it would really be climate change. New Jersey has things on the books for reducing legislation 2007 for reducing greenhouse gases. The states do, based on the EPA clean energy program that the state is now suing them, but there's supposed to be a plan produced by September to meet standards that wouldn't allow increasing the level of CO2. And the Paris events are occurring. So as a ratepayer, I'm really concerned that these things are going to get built, and then once they're built, then the political and financial pressures, and there's almost like a lawyer's lobbyist welfare act here. It just amazes me to see people I know from Haddonfield on the New Jersey DPU, and ones I've worked with at Coase and O'Connor from Haddonfield, to see them, the amount of money that is permeating through this. So there's the heroic reason for it, then there's really probably the wrong reason, but it's the risk. I keep seeing, and it's my opinion, but reading the newspapers, I see the bridge gate that occurred and the involvement of the executive of the New York Port Authority relative to Bridgegate and things going on there. People may go to jail. Now it's United and the South Jersey Transportation Authority, and Fox has been brought into it related to the law firm that the executive, and then my understanding is the law firm of the B.L. England plan is represented by the law firm of that executive. And there's just so many smoking guns here. I went to Gettysburg College. My graduation speaker was Judge Sirica from Watergate. His daughter went there. And I just keep feeling that there's all sorts of things that maybe just a 2-year timeout, and the heroic reason would be climate change, but there are other reasons too. I almost wish that Governor Christie would go up in the polls so the amount of scrutiny would increase. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else who hasn't spoken? All right, great.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to make a public service announcement. I forgot when I was up there that Wednesday here at 10 o'clock, the state climatologist, Dave Robinson, is going to be making a presentation on climate.
Thank you very much. All right. Last three.
Point of context, just so the commission can understand the magnitude of the pipeline issue. I think people can hear from here. the Penny's pipeline will bring into the region 1 billion cubic feet per day. And this, both the North New Jersey Natural Gas and South Jersey Gas pipelines are part of that regional initiative. 1 billion cubic feet per day results in a carbon when that gas combusted, without considering the life cycle upstream emissions from the fracking process, from the compressor stations and the distribution system. Just the combustion of the gas is 21.5 million tons per year. That's more emissions than the entire in-state New Jersey power sector. That's the context of what we're talking about here. So from a climate perspective, this is a huge issue. And just that alone, that factoid alone should be, I think it's a stunning number. I didn't believe